What's going on, everybody? This is Living in Arizona Now, and today we're going to talk about some of the most haunted places in Arizona. For those of you who've gone around Arizona, whether you're camping, going out exploring in the daytime, doing some off-roading, you probably know what I'm talking about. Some places are just more eerie and more scary than other places. Some of it is myth, some of it is real feelings. I'm going to share some of my personal experiences as well as tell some stories about things that have happened in Arizona where people went hiking and they came up missing. Thank you to everyone who's smashing up the likes. Let us know where you're tuning in from today as we continue to get this video out to a large audience. What's going on, Ghost Rider? All right. So I see you guys. Everyone's already making some interactions out there. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know you're here. All right. So we're going to talk about haunted places in Arizona. By the way, if you're thinking about moving to Arizona, I do have one-on-one consultation that you can book a call with me, and pin link down below in the comments and description. So first thing, place, Superstition Mountains. Have you guys ever been out to the Superstition Mountains beyond Apache Junction? You could go out to Canyon Lake. You could go out to Saguaro Lake. You won't really feel like it's a little bit eerie up there. But the second you go beyond up into the Apache Trail, you're out in the wild blue yonder. It looks, you know what the feeling is out there on the Apache Trail? It's kind of like it's calming, it's relaxing, but at the same time, it's like dangerous. There's just this underlying feeling out there. The Apaches used to live out there. That's where they had the box canyons. Now, that's not the most dangerous or haunted area, in my opinion, about the Superstitions. So I took my Ford Raptor. I used to go up into the Superstition Mountains out to Martinez Cabin. You've got several other areas like you have the Coke Domes, which are to the south of there, which are along the Gila River. But back in the area of the Superstitions, in particular out there by Weaver's Needle, you go out that way, very, very eerie, especially as you're out in the mountains. Again, it's got this like calming feeling, but it's got this very rugged and rough, raw kind of feel. And here's where the stories get kind of interesting. As you guys know, there's this story of the lost Dutchman, that Jacob Walls. He supposedly planted some gold out there, and treasure hunters come out to search for the lost Dutchman's gold. Well, through that process of the story of the treasure hunter, there's been people out there who went searching for it and they just disappeared. It's kind of like Arizona's Bermuda Triangle, if you want to call it that. You have hikers that go out there. Sometimes all three come up missing, but you had a story of three hikers back in 2010. They went missing while searching for the mine. They were later found dead. That was in 2010. In 2020, there was another person who went hiking out there to take pictures of the sunset, and then they went out to Weaver's Needle, and they were never found again. 2011, a plane crashed out there in mysterious circumstances with the father and three children, and there's just been other stories associated with that. So people going out there just to search for that, very eerie, how they just disappear or they come up, missing. Some people say, well, it's not really superstition. It's not anything haunted. It's just a really harsh environment. It's a rugged terrain, unpredictable weather. They could get, heavy monsoon storms, or they could, just end up in a bad situation out there, just kind of run out of gas or get a flat tire, stuff like that. But people say there's something else going on. And that kind of goes back to the Apache folklore that's out there. The Apache people had their own legend about the mountains, including stories of a lower world accessible through a hole in the mountains. So it's not just the modern people who are saying it's haunted. This goes all the way back to the Apaches. So you can look it up. We could probably do a whole video about the Superstition Mountains. I'm not going to go on too much about the superstitions, but there's a lot that goes on, and there's a reason why it's called the Superstition Mountains. Another area that I've personally been, this doesn't get a lot of credit for being a haunted or scary place. I'm going to give two that aren't really on the list that I consider to be scary, though. One is Bloody Basin. Bloody Basin, Skull Mesa. I mean, it could be just because of the names, Bloody Basin and Skull Mesa. But I mean, if you go online, you look it up, you're not going to hear anyone talking about Bloody Basin or Skull Mesa as being haunted or dangerous. But when I go out there, I mean, I went out to Sheep's Crossing, Sheep's Bridge. That road is really rough. You need a 4x4. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I took a 1989 Cadillac Brougham all the way out to Sheep's Bridge. I don't even know how I got out there because it's crazy road. But that was back when we were high schoolers and we were hanging out in places like Seven Springs. That's another very crazy place. people who live in Cave Creek know about Seven Springs up there in the Tonto Basin. Thank you to everyone for slashing up the likes. So it says, I think Discovery or History Channel did a series about the Dutchman treasure. Jeff, do you know about the domes in Casa Grande? The domes in Casa Grande, or are you talking about the coke ovens out in the Gila River beyond that? But I know about the domes. They're kind of weird, like they're the white domes and they've got like graffiti on it. I know what you're talking about. That's an eerie place. Casa Grande's a very eerie place. I mean, I could go on and on about that too. So thank you for mentioning that. Thank you to everyone. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Ghost Rider from Portland, Bill from Maine, and Prescott in the house. Kingman in the house. Welcome. You made it to Kingman. Nice. All right. So yeah, the Bloody Basin area, just going out there. I mean, there's lots of bugs out there. Right. I don't know. I just remember tons of mosquitoes always in those little creek beds or the dried up river beds. Bloody Basin, really rough. Skull Mesa. Why do you think they call it Skull Mesa? Why do you think they call it Bloody Basin? Really a rough and tumble area. I always felt like people who do some bad things probably go out to the Bloody Basin and they just live out there. Like people who are on the run, they go out to Bloody Basin and they just hide out like bad people. So that's just a vibe I get out in Bloody Basin. I don't know if you guys have ever been out there, but it's up north of Cave Creek. You go out there past Tonto Hills, past Seven Springs, which, like I said, is a haunted place. They say people go out there and do some sorcery and stuff like that. I don't really want to touch on that too much, but if you know, you know. Like people who are from Arizona know about these things. I'm just sharing this information with people who aren't from Arizona. People who are from Arizona, you could share your experiences of most dangerous or haunted places. But yeah, I'll tell you some more. So Bloody Basin, Superstition Mountains, and the area around Skull Mesa, but Seven Springs. Now we're moving on to another area that I consider to be fairly haunted, and that would be up on the Mogollon Rim. Now, one of the reasons why I consider the Mogollon Rim to be spooky, I don't know, there's something about being deep in these woods up on the Mogollon Rim, and you hear stories about the Mogollon Monster. I don't know if you guys have heard about the mystery of the Mogollon Monster, but it's like Arizona's Bigfoot. You can look it up online. It's called the Mogollon Monster, and there's stories back in the early 1900s where people said they heard like screeching, like people screeching, but an animal kind of screeching. And then they found like dogs or deer, like with the blood sucked out of them, kind of like what you hear the stories about the chupacabra. I don't know if you guys ever remember the story about chupacabra, the goat sucker, which is, I think, basically what they came down to was it's a dog or a coyote with mange. But the chupacabra was a big story. That is another one that ended up on national news. But the Mogollon Monster, that's always in the back of my head when I'm out in the Mogollon Rim. But just being in the thick woods out there, very intimidating, I would say. There's another thing that in another area that I would say is haunted, in my opinion, out there by this area called Superior. If you go out to Superior, there's this place called Apache Leap. It's where the cavalry basically forced a bunch of Apache Indians to jump off a cliff, and that's why they call it Apache Leap. Apache Leap. But yeah, that's a very scary area, I would say. Another thing that makes the area around the Mogollon Rim scary or haunted, in my opinion, I don't know if this is necessarily haunted, but it's a feeling of eeriness. There's also the story of the extraterrestrials or UFOs. As you guys know, that movie that came out when they abducted that man up in the area around Snowflake. We kind of made a video about ETs or alien abductions that happened in Arizona, and they even made a movie about it. But that's out there by the Mogollon Rim, just past the Mogollon Rim as you go up towards Snowflake. They got Heber Overguard. I don't think Heber Overguard's too spooky. I haven't really felt that vibe. But as you go up into the area around the Snowflake, but I don't know, that whole area is just real spooky. I would say that the areas where it's flat, you can even get this, like I said, you get these like calming feelings out in Snowflake. It's very calming out there in the desert, but you almost feel like it's a dangerous terrain. A lot of people think, oh, if I go to the Sahara Desert, or if I go, to the Gobi Desert or some far away distant land, you're going to experience some sort of like crazy stuff. Little do they know, in your own backyard, you've got crazy deserts where, you don't have to go very far to get adventure, for those of you who are adventure seekers. Another area that I would consider to be quite dangerous, it's actually above the Superstitions. I don't know, that whole Salt River, the Salt River just is very eerie. I don't know if you guys have ever taken the back road up above Globe, Miami. If you go past Globe, Miami, and you go up towards the Salt River, you end up in Apache Sitgreaves, like Indian reservation. out there, I don't know, man. At nighttime, it's a bit ominous. It is a bit ominous. It's almost like you could see like an animal just like at nighttime driving out there. It's almost like an animal would just jump out and you'd see only its eyes. You know, it's like one of those kind of environments. But it's very rough and very rugged terrain out there. Now, as far as like popular culture goes, places that people consider to be haunted that are kind of like they sell it to the world in Arizona as being haunted, Jerome comes up on the top of the list. Most people say it's the most wicked town in the West. It's known as Arizona's boomtown in like the early 1900s. Phelps Dodge had a couple mines out there. And then it was once a mining boomtown, and then it just went empty. The reason they call it a ghost town, right, is not necessarily because of ghosts, although they say there's ghosts there, but it's because after the boom comes, everyone leaves, and the only thing left are the ghosts of the past. That's where it gets the word ghost town. But if you walk around there, you'll hear people say there's areas that are haunted. Visitors have reported footsteps in empty hallways, ghostly whispers at night, sightings of miners who never clocked out of the caves. The mines down there in Arizona. Thank you to everyone who's smashing up the likes. I see you guys in the comments. I'm going to get around to those comments here shortly. Thank you to everyone. Also, so Jerome, everyone knows Jerome is like the ghost town. It's like the pop culture one. But let's talk about some different ones. Have you guys ever been down to Tombstone? I would say that when I've gone down to Tombstone, I haven't really felt anything too crazy, but there is some areas around Tombstone in the bars or in the taverns, like the Birdcage Theater. In Tombstone, they say that there's a bunch of haunted paranormal activities, ghost trackers, like on History Channel, Discovery Channel. They went there and they said they went into the birdcage and they found some paranormal activity. And a lot of it comes down to like the gunfights. There was like 26 documented deaths at the Birdcage Theater. Tombstone was a very, very rough, rugged, lawless place. It was the true Wild West. I mean, and the Birdcage was where everyone was going or hanging out at some point in time. So Tombstone has a lot of just eeriness. Anytime there's a place where there was like death or anything like that, is really always going to have like this idea that there's possible paranormal activity or ghosts. Birdcage Theater being one of those places. In the area around Flagstaff, there's the Hotel Monte Vista. They have room 306. That's like an infamous ghostly kind of place in that hotel. They have the phantom bellboy who knocks but vanishes. Real crazy, I know. It's a crazy story, but you know, if you wanted a crazy one, try and stay at Hotel Monte Vista in Flagstaff. Another place that I think is a bit eerie for sure, and if you go down there, you probably will feel the vibe because, like I'm saying, some of the places I go, you can get a calming vibe in the daytime, but as nighttime rolls around or as something happens, you start to get a little bit of wigged out. Bisbee's got that vibe to it. It's got this like creepy kind of relaxing side. Like I said, it's got a relaxing side. It's very beautiful, but it's got this creepy side to it. One of the places in Bisbee, well, there's many places in Bisbee. I mean, Bisbee's like a town that's frozen in the past. I don't think they've built anything new in Bisbee for a long time. Like, I don't think they've built any new stuff in Jerome. They've modernized it or they've renovated some of Jerome. But in Bisbee, they don't really modernize or anything. And Bisbee's kind of a crazy place. But check out that Copper Queen Hotel. They got like, yeah, they got the, you know, former, a lot of these places like Jerome and Bisbee have like this, I don't know the word that I could use on here, but let's just say people who worked in the industry of servicing miners for money, whatever you want to call that. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Women who did that to service miners. Well, some of those women in the Bisbee Copper Queen Hotel are said to be the ones who exist there as ghosts. I'm not going to get too far into that. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. If you don't, it's okay. Moving right along here. So there's an area down in Yuma called the Territorial Prison. Back in the 1800s, that's actually a place where people were prisoners, a very harsh environment. Could you imagine being a prisoner in 1800s in Yuma, no aircon or anything, just being in the Yuma Territorial Prison? Wow. Terrible. Could you imagine how angry and disgruntled those people must have been when they passed on? Wow. Yuma Territorial Prison. So that's down there. People have seen shadowy figures, sudden cold spots that feel real, unnatural, stuff like that. In Phoenix area, there is a couple places. The San Carlos Hotel is one of them. They've got like an underground in Phoenix. I don't know if you guys know that. I think that the idea to go underground back in old Phoenix was a big concept because people wanted to get out of the heat. It was very hot above ground. So one of the ways to get out of the heat was to go below ground or maybe into a shelter, of course, made of rocks. Well, in Phoenix, being hot in the summertime, they were building down below. And in that area, they have the Orpheum Theater, San Carlos, some of that underground. I don't know. Something about that is very eerie. I would say downtown Phoenix has a weird, eerie feeling to it. Anyone ever go down to downtown Phoenix and feel like something's a little bit off down there? I don't know what you guys have come up with down there, but I felt like it. But Bisbee, yeah, everyone says love Bisbee, but I know what you mean. Bisbee is pretty cool. Yeah, you guys have gone down to Bisbee. If you've never gone down to Bisbee, I recommend doing it. You can easily do Tucson, Tombstone, and Bisbee in a day trip. We've done plenty of videos on this channel. You can actually search Bisbee or Tombstone, and you can watch those videos. Thank you to everyone smashing up the likes. Someone says it's free to visit. Hello, just came in. The AJ Hotel is supposed to be haunted up here in Prescott. Yeah, I mean, there's some crazy places in Prescott too. I mean, that's the former capital of Arizona. You know, you go around the courthouse, you get that feeling right there. I forget the main road. I know it all the time, but I've forgotten. It's evading my mind. What's the main road? Whiskey Row, right? What's that main road though? It's not Hacienda. But that whole area right there, it's definitely got this weird vibe. It's got like they got this old timer saloon kind of Wild West in Arizona. They still have it very pronounced in many places. Someone said Montezuma. Oh, dude, Montezuma's well, Montezuma Castle. That is an eerie place. That wasn't on my list here, but that whole area around the Wet Beaver Creek, even down into the Montezuma well, which is you guys know what the Montezuma well is? If you haven't looked it up, you should check it out. It's out there by Rimrock, not Rimrock, Red Rock. Is it Red Rock or Rimrock? Anyway, I keep getting it mixed up. But Montezuma Street, aka Whiskey Row, yeah, that's what it is. Montezuma Street. Someone said stayed at a haunted house, experienced a lot of strange things at night, including the lights turning off when we went to sleep. Wow. Sorry, where was that? Someone said Vendome Hotel in Prescott. Yeah, the Vendome Hotel. I don't really know much about that one, but I should probably look it up. Tell me more about the Vendome that I need to know about that, and we'll look into it more. But going back to the idea of going around to other places, one area that's interesting, this is really a classic gold mine. It's called the Vulture Mine out in Wickenburg. It's an old gold mine. And there's a lot of stories out there because of the way that the dealings of everything was going down. There was a lot of greed by the owners and the miners, and they were fighting. There was betrayal. There was executions. Wickenburg is a crazy old past, but it's a beautiful place. A lot of people are considering Wickenburg when they're moving to Arizona just because it's so beautiful up there. It's close enough to Phoenix without being close at all. I mean, it's still like a 30 to 45 minute drive outside of Phoenix, but Wickenburg, really nice high desert. Although the past out there is a bit rugged and rough. I remember when I was a kid back before they started modernizing Wickenburg. Wickenburg was a place that you'd always get this weird vibe. I mean, they got that Hacienda River. It's kind of weird because it dries up and then it runs. You know, it's like it's a seasonal creek, really. But that Vulture Mine out there, you guys could check it out. I think it's closed right now. They're renovating it. So you'll have to look into it if you go out to Vulture Mine. But what a place. That is a crazy mine. A lot of these mines out there, these old ghost towns, there's a lot of them. We actually just did a video talking about all the ghost towns. I think they said Ruby's closed now. Ruby down in southern Arizona. That's one that gets a lot of attention. The Buffalo Soldiers were down there fighting the natives. I mean, that's a crazy place for those of you who are into history. Check out the Ruby ghost town down in southern Arizona. Big history. Another thing that people talk about is Fort Huachuca. Now, Fort Huachuca is actually a military base. A lot of these military bases came about because when the United States was sending the cavalry out here, they were settling around places like Fort Huachuca, setting up base camps. And what they were basically doing was they were trying to clear the way so that the postal men could get through. So they could get from, I don't know, from New York City all the way to Los Angeles or whatever. But one of the routes the postal workers were taking was through the area of southern Arizona. The area down there is kind of interesting because that's where the De Anza Trail starts. So it comes up from Mexico. The De Anza Trail comes up from Mexico through Nogales, through Tubac, and then it kind of takes at the Gila Bend. It goes just south of the Gila Bend. It goes towards California. And California turns into Camino Real. You know, all the missions of California. You guys know, I'm sure, but the missions of California, that's Camino Real. And Camino Real connects to the De Anza Trail, which goes through Nogales. Well, right there's a lot of history, but that's kind of interesting because coming from the east, they had to catch a trail as well. And so what they would do was they would come in from the east through New Mexico, and Fort Huachuca was one of the routes that they would connect into the De Anza Trail, which was the way west. There's a lot of things to know about Arizona. A lot of people, they start connecting the dots as they start to hear about it. But that area, really interesting around Fort Huachuca, but it's still a military base to this day. And they say officers speak of ghostly knocks and phantom footsteps. These are military officers who say, well, I don't really like being in Fort Huachuca because there's like this eerie feeling to it. And again, that whole area of southern Arizona has got a lot of spooky stuff. I already mentioned Bisbee. Another place in Bisbee that you can kind of check out while you're down there, along with the Gold Queen, is the Oliver House. That is another place that they've got paranormal activity. It's one of the most haunted buildings in the Southwest. If you stay overnight, all I'm going to say is good luck sleeping. But check out the Oliver House. For those of you who want to go down there and stay in Bisbee, Bisbee's a little too creepy and a little too eerie for me to even want to stay the night. Like, I don't even want to stay the night in Bisbee or Tombstone. Seriously, I'd rather just go back to Tucson and get a nice rest. But it is that creepy down in Bisbee. I'm not gonna play games around. I'm not gonna pretend to be this tough guy. I really do get creeped out in Bisbee. Bisbee creeps me out. So does Jerome. Like, I don't know. I just don't have an urge to stay the night. I mean, it's a beautiful place to walk around in the daytime, but I don't know. What do you guys think are some of the most haunted places you guys have been around Arizona? Someone said, I also worked there and not too. It looks creepy as heck. Someone said the ghost should be at busy intersections where people needlessly died. Yeah, I mean, Arizona's had a lot of auto collisions, auto wrecks. I mean, it's pretty well documented how dangerous driving in Arizona can be in some areas. Someone said, most haunted for me was Jerome, had tons of EVPs. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, I would say that Jerome, Bisbee, the Superstition Mountains, I mean, those three really stand out. The Mogollon Rim, those are probably the big four for me when it comes down to it. But even then, I'd have to say like Seven Springs. Seven Springs have you guys ever been out to Seven Springs? BMAC was talking about it on the last video, and I kind of ended the video before I saw his comment. But Seven Springs out there north of the Tonto Basin, north of Tonto Hills, quite an interesting place. Someone said, I never experienced anything even remotely creepy while I was stationed at Fort Huachuca. Yeah, I mean, some people, they won't have anything happen even in Jerome. They won't have anything happen in Bisbee. The reason they say Fort Huachuca is a little bit haunted. Obviously, there was a lot of very scary clashes that happened between the indigenous tribes, the local tribes, in particular the Apaches. You know, you would have had Cochise, Geronimo down in that area when the cavalry was moving people. Sometimes it's one of those things. It could also be the more you know, the more you become aware of it, the more you start to think you're hearing things. I mean, I don't know. I've only had one experience really in my life where I ever heard like a voice that was like outside of a ways. That happened like a long, long time ago. And that was in Carefree, Arizona. And so, I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, I haven't had anything like where I've seen a ghost or anything, but I'm just saying, like, there's this creepy vibe when you walk into a place and you feel the hairs on the back of your neck. You get this gut instinct, and that's kind of like what I've felt around places like Bisbee, Tombstone, Jerome, Mogollon Rim. At Mogollon Rim, I'll tell you that. Have you guys ever gone camping out in the Mogollon Rim? Do it. Go camping in the Mogollon Rim. No joke. Go camping deep in the Mogollon. Like, I'm talking past the lakes, go off onto the dirt road, set up a campsite, just you and whoever's with you. I mean, if you want to go alone, dude, document it. I'll watch your YouTube video. Seriously. Someone says, I've passed through Seven Springs several times, never knew it was haunted. Well, the reason it's considered haunted, actually, it's a place where they do sorcery. Like people who are into like magical arts, they like convene. Or this used to be the case back in the day. They used to go up there. I don't know if they do anymore, but I'm not going to get too far into that. But if you're an old time Arizona person, if you're an old time Cave Creeker, if you're an old time Phoenix person, you know about what's going on out there. I mean, you'll even see like sites where they had like ritual stuff going on. I don't know. It's just crazy out there. Someone said Fort Huachuca is a beautiful piece of land. Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of land right there in Sierra Vista, right? So, someone said any place east of Flagstaff off I-40 is strange. Yeah, it's just that was what I was talking about earlier in the video. It's just like flat. It's like a flat land, and it's like there's no trees or anything. It's like almost like this red dirt. They call it the painted desert almost, but it's real eerie, isn't it? Anyways, guys, wanted to make this video. Hope you're having a great day and a night, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you to everyone who smashes up the likes.